become reality. Come join the movement, let's take AI to the next level. We're breaking barriers, we're writing the code. Together we'll conquer, watch our ideas unfold. The future starts here, joining the revolution. Let's say our podcast, the ultimate solution.
Good afternoon and welcome to the broadcast. This is Leland Best, your host from Best Live TV, host of Best AI Podcast, along with my three friends today, Jim Hankins, Kerry Taylor, and Ross McCamey. Welcome, guys. How are you today?
Doing great.
Outstanding in a field.
Love it. Outstanding in a field, says Mr. Jim. I think you've been standing in nothing but a basement for the last few days, haven't you, Jim?
This is true. Yeah. It's not a glorious life.
You want to tell us what you've been up to before we get into the depth of things? We've got a lot to talk about here at Best AI Podcast with a lot going on. President Trump yelling out the name DeepSeek the last day or so. So we're going to talk about that mostly today on the Best AI Podcast. But Jim, I want to hear what's going on with CribOps. We've been promoting your offering throughout the last few episodes, and I know you locked yourself down again the other day. What was that all about?
Yeah. Yeah. Leland always gets the, not right now, Leland.
Yeah, I do.
I'm trying to build.
Right.
Yeah, I'm just working on the next iteration of CribOps, CribLink. And I'm working on a build that will support both Mac, Windows, and Linux when I release it, which might be this week. It's looking like it might squeak into the early part of next week. But yeah, so it's a retooling of it, and I'm excited to get it out the door.
Can't wait. I got the last update in, and I haven't used it since, honestly. I've been out playing my N8N build and all kinds of other stuff, but just restarting from scratch, I think, on a lot of things. Kerry, what about you? I know you're busy in the space. What have you been working on the last week or so?
Yeah, man. A lot of client deliverables for different things that I'm like custom things that I'm building out for clients and things like that. So really good momentum there. I have, behind the scenes, we've been doing a lot of work on some of our AI service offerings in the space of like social media management and things like that. So a lot of deep rooted work in the behind the scenes stuff. Some of the things that we've been working on for the last like 90 days are starting to come to fruition. So exciting times, but yeah, just grinding away, man, and trying to keep everybody happy as we do it.
Things coming, things that we're going to do, things that we see coming, and now it's here. And so, yeah, Ross, you want to give us a little rundown of some of the stuff you've been playing with the last few days? Because I know you're having a ball over there with some of the new options available.
Yeah, man. We've been also doing deliverables. December was a massive month for us leading into 2025. So we've just been fulfilling a lot. And I finally have the team up and running. So it's going pretty smoothly. And it's allowed me to get into the R&D side of things again, which is where I love being. And I've been playing with the OpenAI operator a lot and even using the browser use UI, which is the free self-hosted version of that. Needs a lot of work. And both of them really need a lot of work. But that's the piece that we've been missing with our AI agents right now. We can have it answer calls, it can text, it can post on your social media for you, but it hasn't been able to go out and do real life tasks on the internet and use your CRM and do things that you actually need it to do outside of answering questions and phone calls and different things like that. So the next iteration of the AI agent that we're building is going to have the operator tech in it, where it's actually going out and using the internet. And I think that's going to be coming in the next 6 months or so. And I'm super excited about it.
Yeah, I can't wait, honestly. When it comes down to some of the stuff that's happening out there, we've got DeepSync, we've got LTX Studio is another one that I'm also playing with that is building video productions. Ross got his hand on Sora the other day, and we were just playing around before we came out here today. We'll show you some of the results that we came up with just 5 minutes worth. That Ross took a few images that he created with AI and then had them animated, along with some really cool logo animations that he was able to pull off too. So, but I kind of want to get into the deep of it. If you're not familiar with who we are and what we do, this is, again, Best AI Podcast, which can be found out at Best AI TV on YouTube. If you're watching us from Facebook, or anywhere else and you want to comment during the broadcast, please head over to YouTube where you'll get the most engagement. We do follow up on all the other posts, but you may find an AI answering some of the comments on any of the other feeds that might be located on Facebook or Instagram or anywhere else. So keep in mind, if you want to receive notifications of us going live at any time, not just during the podcast, make sure you go head over there and click the little button at the beginning of the screen. If you want to find us on any of our other sources, such as Facebook, YouTube, our live stage, which is also fully operational and always running, you can see the video feedback here is causing a feedback loop. But if you want to join us and get away from all the social aspects of Facebook and YouTube and everything else, and actually get a chance to talk with one of our AIs, you can come over here, watch everything that goes on, hold a conversation with us, and maybe even purchase some of the products that we offer during the broadcast. We also broadcast out to Spotify and Acast, which will be coming soon. And if you want to get to know the crew in a little more depth, just follow the buttons out underneath each of the players. And that's it. So roll down to the bottom if you want the notifications, fill out the form, and you'll get those on a weekly basis. So, DeepSeek. Let's talk about it. I just read an article to these guys this morning, and I'm going to make this an open conversation. Friend of mine, Owen Hemseth, who is known as Owen Video, is out there, broadcasts every day. He's been in this space for years, along with some of us in the AI space. He plays with it, but not at the level we're developing. And he made a comment on Facebook the other day, because he does run an agency, a marketing agency and a YouTube agency. So he helps 7-figure businesses develop YouTube channels. And they use AI to create YouTube scripts, YouTube descriptions, YouTube content, video content, AI generated images, all that type of stuff. So he's familiar with the concept and how it's used. And when DeepSync was brought up into the space and made accessible to everybody, what happened, Ross? Tell them what happened when DeepSync showed up. We know who they are. Give them a rundown of what the story behind DeepSync was.
So DeepSeek came out and it pretty much disrupted the use. And I know that we started using DeepSeek in our company because it gave good outputs. It's more humanistic, it's very responsive, and it gives you the R1 model, which is the reasoning model. And to be able to get any sort of reasoning model with OpenAI, you have to pay the $20 a month. We're on the $200 a month plan already because we use the operator tech and we've been playing with that. But at the same time, DeepSeek is coming in and they're pretty much cloning everything that OpenAI has done, and they're doing it for free. They're coming in and saying, hey, come and play with our systems. And I think it's just going to be a matter of time before they clone Sora, they clone the operators, and I think that's coming soon. The operator will be very, very soon behind everything. But it's kind of caused a lot of waves, and you saw NVIDIA's stock tank. You saw crypto markets tank because everybody's wondering, if DeepSeek could come in and do this for less than $6 million in less than 6 months time, why is it going to cost $500 billion for Operation Stargate to go underway and do all this with the processing? And the implications of that hit NVIDIA hard because they're the ones with the Blackwell architecture on their GPUs, and they're trying to put all this out for the AI processing in these processing centers. So it's created a lot of controversy out there from that standpoint. So that's the long and short of what has happened so far.
Yeah, you touched on the key factor here is that a group of very few individuals with very limited resources went together, smacked their heads together, and of course, duplicated systems. Now, the thing that's really bothering me right now is OpenAI is making this big claim that DeepSeek stole all their content. That's laughable to me. After everything that OpenAI has been through about where they got their content in the first place. So for Donald Trump to go out as the president of the United States and state that China is stealing all of the US made stuff that is so precious to our ability to govern the world, I suppose, is how he feels. And I'm sorry, I voted for the man. But when I hear him talk like this about a technology that could advance the world forward, I don't care where it comes from, okay? It was developed on the auspice that it could do better with less money, and they proved that. They were able to do that. So what's the problem here? The big problem is we're always going to be in competition with communist China. It's that simple, okay? That's just totally two different societies working against each other. We'll always have that. I don't think we'll ever get away from it. So the fear, I think, is unfounded, though. Why? You want to give us an idea, Jim? What are we doing with CribOps? Self-hosting,
Well,
right?
for one, DeepSeek is open source, so you can run those models locally, and people can inspect and determine how things were done, and how much it compute how much it actually cost to produce it with respect to the ability to um, enable people to run the models locally, even if they have, if they're working for a U.S. company, or they're doing work for enterprises in the U.S. that may put restrictions on their ability to use the public side of DeepSeek, and I can appreciate concerns with respect to that, but running it locally, or running it on your own infrastructure, whether you're on premise or in the cloud, running those models, is kind of a game changer. So.
Yeah, and I think the big thing that a lot of people are missing here on the open source aspect of it is that they can then, from that model, which is just as it stands when it's given to you, append anything they want to that and make it their own, in a sense, because they have opened the entire source code to anyone. That's one thing that these other guys aren't doing. Okay. So to stake claim that they know better makes me question their integrity over the integrity of DeepSeek, because DeepSeek's willing to give out the entire code. They show exactly what they made. They even admitted right up front that they duplicated OpenAI's structure, converse structure. So it was like nothing new there. Why wasn't that made apparent immediately with everybody that this is a problem? It didn't seem to be a problem for corporate. They went right into it and started using it immediately because they knew how much advantage, I can't even use the word, how advantageous it would be for them because of its reasoning skills. We haven't developed an AI that has the reasoning skills R1 does.
They have it, but
have
you
we?
have to. Yeah, O1 Pro is
You have to
better
pay.
than R1. You have
Yeah,
to pay.
exactly.
Yeah.
So there's not one out there for free like R1 is. And that's the key right there. They're driving this use case. And I think you kind of touched on it there too, Leland, is they took the architecture that was already there and they expanded on it.
Mhm.
And I think we're going to see more and more of this happen as things go. And I think the big panic over them for DeepSeek being able to come out and do this was, how is OpenAI, Google, why are they all spending billions of dollars to do this whenever DeepSeek can come in and do it for a fraction of the cost and a fraction of the time? Well, they didn't start from ground level. They started from what was already there, and they were able to expand on it. And I don't think they did much expansion. I think what they did was they unlocked it. The thing I really like about DeepSeek is that you can see how it's thinking as it goes. And when you look at O1 Pro, it's locked down. You have no idea what it's thinking. And so that's one of the reasons that I use DeepSeek, is because I can see the reasoning that's happening behind the scenes.
Yeah.
I think a
Go ahead,
lot
Free.
of the concern from the proverbial on high could be derived from the origins of DeepSeek, right? Like the founder, I believe, has a background in like crypto or like some kind of financial crypto markets, quantitative trading, I think it was. And I think he founded a different company specifically about that.
Mhm.
And having that kind of like informational electronic engineering background, not necessarily specific to crypto, raises eyebrows for those people, right? Because they're like, okay, what does this mean? Because if you look at the financial connections between crypto and our traditional banking systems, when you look at quantitative trading strategies or traditional financial markets, there's a big disparity, and the big piece of that is the decentralization of it, right? So from a philosophical standpoint, you have the potential to decentralize technology, which is a threat to US based, like even cloud systems, right? Then you that open source approach to development, then you have the continued resistance to centralized control because of the fact that it's open source, and and ultimately, similar to what you just said, it's community driven, right? That development model lends itself to be community driven intentionally. So I think, like Ross was saying, no, they didn't start from scratch. They took what they could, looked at other areas and other verticals that they had experience in and what went really well on the crypto side, and said, hey, how can we pull this into AI? And now you have that as a whole, which then leads into all the geopolitical things that may come into it, right? Because now you have to deal with the potentials of having like the equivalent of an offshore account, but for AI.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just think it's that's what's making a lot of people nervous. But for those of us who are touching and feeling this stuff, we're like, dude, this is like not somebody not having a monopoly on it and getting pie in their face saying it's going to cost this much, and now it doesn't. So of course they're going to scramble and say, oh, well, they're not doing this or they're not being transparent about this, but they're literally being more transparent than you guys because of how they launched it, right? So yeah.
What I found interesting, and I posted this on my Facebook page just the other day. You can just scroll down if you're watching this on Facebook. A post came out from Fortune.com with Mark Zuckerberg's face on it, and the headline read this, and it was kind of ironic when I read it. Meta is reportedly scrambling multiple war rooms, quote, war rooms of engineers to figure out DeepSeek AI and why it's beating everyone else at a fraction of the price. Duh. You just built war rooms of engineers to figure it out. They took 5 guys to figure it out. That's why it costs you so much. It's like your irony shines brilliantly in your own conversations. It's like, why are you doing this to yourself? It doesn't make sense. Jack Dorsey even stood up the other day from Blue Sky and said, make it all open source. Make everything AI open source. No questions, qualms about it. Just do it, get it over with so that everyone can benefit from this and not make it some type of monopoly that somebody can control. And I think he's onto something there because, yeah, Jim, give me your take on open source. You know what happens in the open source space a lot of times. Just give a rundown in that sense so that people understand why it's not always the best way to go.
Yeah, I don't know that I'm an expert in that space, but I have seen organizations get taken advantage of, as they go to build an open source product and try to build a business atop it by delivering services, and then very large, well-funded organizations swoop in, take the code, deliver the service, at scale, and compete with the original provider of the open source, right? So that's where you see people changing their licensing models. Like N8N, as example, uses, I think they refer to it as a fair use license to try to protect themselves against that. So the code's open, but there are restrictions on what you can do with it as far as delivering a service atop it, right? And that makes total sense to me as a kind of a solopreneur, writing code. The last thing I need is to spend a couple of years building something and then have somebody just swoop in and take it, right?
And that's what's happening. That's what I see happening with some of these folks is that they went the open source route. They're using those models. And even Olama, in a real sense, is kind of pushing that front forward, because in the Olama build, what we are able to do is add the DeepSeek R1 model as a model to that open source build and then generate that in-house. That's what's really convenient about that. We could do DeepSeek in other ways as well and build an internal build of that, but Olama made it simple. I mean, it's just click, bang, you get the 5 gig version of it or the 75 gig version of it, and you're good to go. You don't have anything to do but add to it. So I guess I'm just questioning this big argumentative stance that everybody's on when it comes to AI. What do you?
I don't think the risk considerations are something that should be ignored. I do think for people who are in this, it goes without saying. It's like what you said. It's like, duh. Yeah, sure. There's risk that we have to keep an eye to as it relates to things like regulatory compliance, security standards, like ethical oversight, global stability. The bottom line of it is this narrative framework, it positions the rise of that open source, right? Locally hosted AI within a familiar historical context while highlighting the revolutionary potential of reshaping global power dynamics, specifically in technology. So when you look at it from a lens of that, you can see the people who currently hold the reins to that power are like nervous because they're like, hey, I thought we had this in the bag. You know what I mean? I was supposed to be coasting this first quarter.
With their
and then DeepSeek comes in and flips the table over. So they're like, what do we do?
Well, what did they go from a $5 billion valuation or $50 billion valuation to like a tenth of that immediately? I didn't get the
Yeah.
numbers exact, but I saw the red line go down.
It was
really
something crazy.
fast on ours.
Not trending in the right direction,
No,
according to
Right.
some.
And I'm sure stockholders freak out when those things happen, of
Oh,
course,
for sure.
because when you've invested, especially these guys who are like converting all of their Bitcoin whole hodl to AI hodl, is what they're doing. They're praying that everything they made here is now going to go 10 or 50 fold in the AI space. And then that line suddenly flips and goes the other way. There's a lot of screaming people out there. So I get that, but we need to really watch out for that stuff.
I think it's crazy that the instantiation of this type of thing pulls into the highlight of the way social advertising changed to point towards influencers versus advertising dollars, traditional ways, mediums, and things like that. It's like when you can have an influencer, whether that be a politician, whether it be a celebrity, go in and just say something about a meme coin and it skyrockets to increase its market cap, it's all bets are off at that point. Like you can control it at the drop of a dime, so long as you position yourself in such a way that your brand commands that level of authority and trust with the people that are following you.
Oh, sure.
So yeah, it's one of those things where it's like now it's in everything.
Well, speaking of AI influencers, since you brought it up, Curry, I got to take note of it. Head over to influencermarketinghub.com where you can read an article about the top 10 AI influencers making waves on Instagram. If you haven't checked these folks out, these are literally AI renditions of what you might call an Instagram influencer. This one only happens to have 7.3 million followers. Started out as a Kickstart program. Same with Lil Miquela. She's running, I believe, 2.5 million followers. And Layla Love is running 546,000 followers on Instagram, along with Ima from Japan, I believe she's from. 393,000 followers. Oh no, that's a Chinese influencer. Ayatina Lopez. That's not a real person playing that game. That's simply an image of an AI influencer. And they simply take a face of one image of what they want that person to look like. And then they take several different background images and paste the face onto the person. You've seen it done in AI and CGI and things like that, where they simply generate another human's face onto a photograph or what have you. I've done it myself. I've created some of these influencers on YouTube. I run a YouTube channel with an AI influencer, a DJ influencer. So these are becoming a big thing, and they're making a lot of money. There are people making $30,000 a month running AI avatars. So people just love these things. They love to look at them and watch them interact and see how the graphics generate. I think that's the stunning part of it. It's mind-boggling, I think, to a lot of people right now. So they just sit and stare. So Ross, you want to give some folks a little feel for how Suno generated some video for us today, and we'll kind of wrap this up in 5. We don't want to make these broadcasts too long. I'd like to try and shorten these podcasts to about a half an hour because we will be generating a lot of content. If you want to be a guest on Best AI Podcast, simply give us a shout or fill out the form and let us know it's you. And we do have some coming up very soon. I'm looking to get the developer of Magi.ai to come onto the show and talk about, he developed a AI curation website, very similar to Merlin or U.com, and where you can access several different AI applications on one interface through one UI. So we're glad to have him on the show coming up very shortly. All right, Ross, go ahead, give it a run. Let's see what we got.
Yeah. So I took a couple images here and just gave it a little prompt. So this one, I took this image of an eye and I said, show it blinking and then zoom out to a guy getting ready to give a presentation at a tech company. And it generated this. This was also an AI generated image that I used. That was not a real picture of an eye. That was using focus to create that.
That's crazy.
So really cool there. And then I took another AI generated image for Ava, my avatar for our AI VA system, and told it to put her working at a desk and have people walking behind. And I mean, this looks just like something that you would see that was actually recorded with real people.
Yeah, and when we use these types of clips as B-roll, they are only seen for a very brief moment of time. You see this kind of cinematic flair all the time in production, where cutaways take place all the time to different scenes, back and forth, back and forth. So if it's done in the right way, you wouldn't know this was an AI generated piece of content. But some of us in video production do see it. Now, this is another one. I love what Ross did here. You want to tell him how that was generated, Ross?
Yeah, I literally just put in my logo and said I want a super sci-fi intro for my videos. Use my logo for Maverick Solutions, and just kind of put in the prompt.
Show him that other one that you did, the first one.
That one was one I did because I wanted it to be more.
Yeah, that one there.
This one was a 480 version. I want to get this one again. I need to upscale this to 1080.
That was really cool.
But this is my favorite one. And that all just came from putting my logo in.
And that would take hours to generate from a creative designer, to have them actually sit down and generate an animation like that. That's not easy work. That would have to be done in something like After Effects or any other app that does full CGI work and layering and color scaling, graphic scaling, colorizing, you name it. There's a lot of work done there that would have to be manually done, and the AI is able to do it all the time.
And you could say that this looks like some of these they look like the logo specifically. You might look at it and be like, well, I can tell that that's not the best, but it's like, dude, you know how long it would take for a newbie in that industry that's learned that skill set to create something even close to that as like a first run.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, it just changes the accessibility of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and the graphic Russ started with on that, which you're still sharing your screen there, Russ.
Yeah,
the graphic was literally a low scale logo. It wasn't a high graphic kind. It wasn't a 1080p or 4K logo of any kind. It was just like a 480 logo to begin with. So it pixelated a little bit, but no big deal. All right, guys. Jim, you got anything to wrap up when it comes to Crib Ops? Let's just make sure we do promote you a little bit here since you've done an update. What do we need to do if we want to update our Crib Ops app on our system?
Yeah, so the existing Crib Ops has the latest update, and that will get an announcement when we launch the new version. And maybe it'll be the end of this week. We'll see.
And
the elves are hard at work, and by the elves, I mean me.
You want to go over your pricing structure real quick, Jim, how this works, and better understand what they get for the
So we have currently four plans. We have the Solo, which effectively gives you a single instance of CribLink to run, and all that is just basically a piece of software that runs on your desktop. That creates webhooks for you and then consumes against those webhooks that get stored in between you and the webhook in the event that your network goes down, your machine goes down, or whatnot. So the first tier CribLink Solo is 100,000 API requests per month. So if you compare that to something like a Make or Zapier, where their entry tier is usually 10,000 tasks per month. So we're just taking that request, and then what you do with it is on you. Obviously, many times people use something like AnyDen on the on premise or somewhere in the cloud to get that to happen. So the first one is no HA, meaning there's only one instance, and then the next tier up, you got 500,000 requests per month, 5 concurrent activations. I mean, you can have 5 different CribLink pieces of software running on multiple machines, including multiple locations, and that's what gives you that high availability capability. So you can process more messages concurrently, as well as have that resilience. And then finally we have the scale, where you're now 1 million requests per month. You have 25 activations, and then we have pricing both on monthly and annual. And then if you have any other needs outside of that, just click the Let's Talk button and we'll have a conversation. We can do things like dedicated instances and those kind of things. Put it in GovCloud. It just depends on what kind of organization you have.
All right. Well, Jim's not the only one with services and products here as well. I know Ross has some offerings available, and Kari, I'm not sure exactly what you're offering at the moment. So why don't you start and give some folks an idea of what you could help them with? I have no problem with giving you some free time here to discuss what it is you do and offer to folks. Feel free.
Yeah, sure. So, at Sekou Designs, we ultimately, I think the biggest thing that we're doing right now is offering people the ability to assess their AI readiness. A lot of people are hearing this key phrase AI, and if you're not using AI, then you're going to get left behind. You're going to become Blockbuster and these kinds of things. So I've had a lot of people reach out to me about, teaching about this, and I don't know how do I know if I'm ready? So that's one of the major services that's been having an uptick over the last few weeks, just at the beginning of the year. But the traditional things that we do inside my business as a digital agency is we do the traditional web design, web development, social marketing, all these types of things. Like I said, we have the AI assistants and employees, and we're doing pretty well with that aspect of it. And recently just launched the social media manager, which is going really good because people are interested in automating it. So, but yeah.
I love it. Now, I'm glad you brought up the educational aspect of it. But before I get to Ross and his location and where we can find out what him and I are doing together, honestly, a news article went out the other day by ServiceNow, which is a big player in the CSM space that is now moving into the CRM space. When I say CSM, that's customer service management. So in this case, they are now announcing the fact that they are becoming part of the CRM space. And that's huge when it comes to enterprise level customers. But something they said in here, which was really pertinent to everything we're doing right now, was this. And it was because of the complexity of the critical AI education piece. Rebecca Wetman, CEO and principal analyst at Valor, recently told CX, in the short term, it's also going to need skilled experts to help customers integrate these systems. Simply handing customers a bunch so far. So it's kind of obvious. There's still an educational component that needs to be brought to the table in every business model that's placed in the AI space. If you're not teaching people how to use what you're giving them, they're going to fail. So we really encourage all of those working in this space to get that school together or get that on-site, social network group together, that community that you can build together and work together and learn together, so that it doesn't become so complicated for everyone. Ross, tell them what you're up to over there at Maverick Solutions, what we're kind of looking forward to in the forefront, and we'll make it a close.
Yeah, so one of the things that I realized with this is right along the lines of what Leland just said, the education piece is huge. And on top of that, it's not just educating them. We've had systems out for 3 years now that we've been offering. And the number one thing we realize is people get in, they think it's cool, they see the benefit, they don't know how to build in it. And so what we did was we started offering our builds. So we actually have dedicated builds that we do. We make sure that the system is up and running, and we create SOPs to teach you how to use it, which is more or less, go here, check this chat. You can look at everything your AI is doing here, and we're just building out more and more robust so that it's easier to understand and see. So everything that we do is completely built out for our customers now. We don't just offer a system.
Yeah, I think the big thing that we're learning as we continue to play just in the chat itself is that building the SOP, the standard operating procedure that's necessary to develop, whether it's a prompt, whether it's a process, whether it's an automation or a workflow, doesn't really matter. It all starts with that first conversation. So we hope that as we move ahead on this space, that you come by and learn how to have those conversations with the AI. And that's our intent, is to help you do that. So Jim, thanks for being here once again. And we really hope people go over and take a look at CribOps, because we do believe you've opened up a gateway to us home lab builders to allow us to generate a lot of really cool services through your app. And Kari, you as well, I appreciate what you bring to the table here with your knowledge and expertise of worldwide things. I think you've got a lot of insight there. And Ross, yourself, being a partner of the three of us that working on the back end to put things together, obviously Kari's going to be a part of that moving forward as a new member of the team. I'm really looking forward to what we can build here on the show and help people deliver that in their own builds in the future. So thanks, guys. We appreciate everything. And we'll see you in the next broadcast. Wednesdays, 12 noon till about 12:30. I can't think of anything else except for have a good week and don't fear China. We do need to, hold a little cushion on the communism part of things. Sure, we don't want that happening here in America. But when it comes to technology and advancements in intelligence, we really need to take a second look. All right, guys, have a good one. We'll see you next week.
We're breaking the mold. With AI fusion, let the story unfold. From love to business, the future is here. Unlock the potential, make it crystal clear. Yeah. It's time to fuse, let the sparks ignite. AI in action, reaching new heights. Love and business blending into one. AI fusion, the journey's just begun.